So, dear friends, welcome to the first restricted documentary filmmakers symposium. So, I just wanted to say that we here are in very restricted company here, and I will introduce, starting from this end, this is Davis Sīmanis. He's a director who is making both documentaries and fiction films, and also he is a pedagogue. He teaches in the film school, Latvian film school. And is very, very productive and made very many good films. And actually his film Juris, The Wall, was screening in Artdocfest. Was it a couple of years ago or a little bit longer back?
1 year.
1 year, 1 year back. I think in Moscow it was screening actually. Yes, this is Elina Lange with a very beautiful second part of the surname.
Yes,
maybe.
Yonatamishvili. It's a good test when you have wine. So as long as you can pronounce it, you can keep drinking. And when you can't, you have to stop.
Yonatamishvili.
Yes, you shouldn't be drinking today.
Wine, please. It's otherwise I start to, So Elin, actually, I don't know. It's your first film. She's participating in the festival in the Baltic Focus program, because we have two programs in our festival. One is Artdocfest program, where are more films about Eastern Europe and also from that part of the world. And we have special Baltic program. And Elina is here because our theme today is. Mission role of a documentary filmmaker in the world without barricades, and what do we do, because already for 30 years we don't have any barricades anymore. Then I will tell a little bit about myself. I am also a filmmaker. I am not so productive as some other here. I have an activist background, which is very useful in this festival. I feel like young again. Like 20 years ago I was doing different performances and actions in other parts of Vitaly Mansky, who is sitting right here, invited me to help him to organize this festival. And then I remembered my activist skills, and here I am, trying to implement this in this way. And this is Anton Dolin. He's a very famous critic, film critic in Russia. Maybe internationally also you're famous, I don't know. But he is a main editor of the Europe's oldest film magazine, Искусство кино, Film Art. And this is this magazine that we are very appreciating very much. And thank you for being here. And also one thing that I didn't mention, Anton is a member of Jury, not of Baltic Focus program, but of this Artdocfest program. So they have been working together with Dita Rietuma and Artemi Troitsky these days. And here, last but not last, Vitaly Mansky. He is a director, documentary filmmaker himself, but he's also president of Artdocfest festival. And a couple of words about this festival. It was born 14 years ago in Russia, when there was a big movement. Russia is a country where documentary cinema is called the contemporary art #1, like we also maybe used to have some decades ago, let's say like this. And he's been organizing this festival in Russia, and it was very successful and for many years. But then political system slowly but inevitably changed. And in 2014, I think, after the Crimea happenings, Vitaly decided, and he's actually exilist. He lives in Latvia already for 6 years. Because it's very difficult for him both produce films and make a festival in Russia. But still he's trying. They actually were having the festival in the beginning of April in Moscow. They were supposed to have also in St. Petersburg, but it didn't happen because it was closed. Of course, COVID is also in Russia and Moscow and St. Petersburg. It's not a question about that, but if you follow a little bit and see in the media pictures from these cities and elsewhere in Russia, there is practically no restrictions regarding the cinemas and cafes, as I understand, like this. So, as I understand, I was not there, that there was it's because some films were not, were more free than it's custom now in Russia, and because of that, there were problems in the festival. Maybe, Vitaly, you can say a couple of words about that. Now, Vitaly, you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
We have transported the competition of Artdocfest to Riga because in Latvia we can maintain the level of quality, and it's not only the problem of Russian censorship, it's also a problem of intergovernmental relationships, because many filmmakers often don't want to show films in aggressive country of Russia, and we cannot include many of the films in competition. So we cannot include them, these films, and in Latvia we can do that. And also, I will not talk about censorship in Russia because most of the people know. I think that our conversation today about role and place of documentary filmmaker to catalyze this conversation, I could use the film that was shown in Moscow, the film about the documentary filmmaker Alexander Rastorguev, with whom I have also worked together. In also some of his important films, but Alexander was killed during the shooting of his film 3 years ago. It happened in the Central African Republic, and I know that we have shown this film to many of participants of the discussion, and we don't want to talk about this film, even though there is author of the film in Zoom, Yelena Stanina, Evgeny Stanin, the young director, and also widow or maybe wife of Alexander Rastorguev, and also producer of the film. He was also producer of one of the last films of Alexander, and I think that the fate exists, and the fate cannot be changed. For the fate of the documentary filmmaker cannot be changed. He is on the blade of the reality, and the consequences can be difficult. But there are documentary filmmakers who don't follow the blade of the reality, and we will not talk who is the one, which way to choose, but today the question about the way you choose is very important for everyone. And I think that it's worth to think and analyze, or at least to talk about it.
Then we can continue, just speak around ourselves, and then people who hear, then they hear it. I was thinking that you all have got this film to see, and it was very interesting because Uldis, who couldn't come here today because he has some health issues to take care of, he immediately called me back, and he was very fascinated about this film, and he says that it gave such a drive, and and energy. And why we chose this film to speak about, because I think it's several dimensions there. One is this situation where he's going to this he's type of documentary filmmaker who is balancing on the edge all the time. Not only that he's going to the war zones or these dangerous places, but we could see in the film that he's also doing in the peaceful time. He's finding this, this strange happening in the village where the person was killed with this axe. And then he takes actors and they are doing these scenes. And you can feel that this is not only because of the war, it's like kind of a special energy, that it's a special tradition in a way. And from this aspect, I thought was a very interesting film. What do you think, Anton? How do you find this Rastorguev?
I think more than film itself, the dilemmas and the ideas around the mission of documentary filmmaker is something to talk about, because Rastorguev, he was on the edge always. He was thinking about his way as a filmmaker, but at the same time, he worked sometimes, and it mentioned in the film, on small project like making of some other big movies. And it's also work for documentary filmmaker. You can earn money like this. You can be a respectful person being inside big and not completely free film industry like Russian film industry. And you can stay calm. And the main question is, why not to stay calm? Why to risk your life? Is it only some personal inner will to be on extreme all the time? Or is it kind of a mission you're obliged to do it, and you're obliged to risk your life to be a true filmmaker? And I think there's no answer in this question. Everything is very personal, but at least it's good to ask this question. And in some way, any documentary filmmaker in Russia now asking himself or herself this question. And for me, that's why this film is important. Not only because the figure of Rastorguev himself in the center, but because of this question, which are not comfortable, not easy, and even for himself it wasn't easy to find an answer, because he was you can see it in the film, he was tortured by these questions and problems, how not only how to work but how to live being filmmaker. And I know that it's not exclusively a documentary question, because we all know that our friend, my friend and Vitaly's friend, Sergei Loznitsa, who's making documentaries and feature films, also living on the edge of the same question, and that Andrei Zvyagintsov, who is doing only feature films, is also asking these questions in every film he makes. And many people who work in Russia are in center of this question. And of course, it's connected direct way with Russian politics. But we don't know yet if the death of Rastorguev directly connected with Russian politics. Maybe it was a coincidence. No one knows. So it's not necessarily only the question about Russia. It's more universal, as I think. And when we watch this Artdocfest films, at least competition, I cannot talk about it really because I'm a member of the jury, but we can see this will to be on extreme age in the center of majority of these films. So this is a central question, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think at least from the side, the life in Russia itself is living on the edge for many people, not for all, of course, but for many. But turning to our Baltic, more calm rivers and lakes and sea, there is. I wanted to ask you, Elina. Elina, for those who didn't hear, she is the director of a film who is taking part in a Baltic focus competition, and actually it's her first film. And I don't know, the woman like you takes a camera and you're going to war. Where did you go? This is also one of the films that we sent to you. It's called Restless Memories. And as I already mentioned in the mail, it's not to somehow favoritize it or among other films, but it's to this topic very interesting thing.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. I think that's also connecting this to the film about director Rastorguev. He repeatedly mentioned worldview in this film. And I think this is what it's about. It depends on what is your worldview, and you are either able to keep silent about certain issues or you're not. And those can be big ones, such as, for example, in my case, the Russia-Georgia war of 2008 and its consequences. So it's a very big topic, and it's, a theme that speaks to people everywhere, because I think almost every country on this planet has experienced some form of conflict or war in its history, and people still remember that, and it has consequences. Or it can be a small issue. It can be, something about, a murder in one family or something like that, which then opens gates to these bigger issues. So I think it's just for you as a filmmaker, do you have the ability not to do anything when you witness this, when you see this? Or do you have this inner voice screaming inside you saying, hey, this is important, everybody should know about it? And if you have this feeling inside you, then you just go and do it. I'm not sure if I would have been able to go there during the war. It's hard to say in hindsight. So my film was made actually 12 years after the war, to see how it's affected the refugees, and especially the children for whom this refugee village is the only home that they know. They don't know anything else. I would like to say that, yes, I would have the courage to go into a war zone, but I think it would be just speculation, because you can truly answer this question for yourself only when it's actually happening to you. Where are your borders? Because all of us have some limitations and some borders. It's nice to imagine yourself as this super brave film director, but once you are actually confronted with death or, war, I'm not sure that anyone could take it. You have to be, I think, have a special mindset to go through this.
So I gather from your what you were saying that filmmaker only makes films when the question of the problem screams in or reflects into her or him, and that is kind of a quest for the world to pay attention or save the world. Or
well, it is for me, and I don't know, in my experience it seems that I can feel this kind of personal interest or spark or pain in every filmmaker's film. There is always something personal that triggers you to make a film about a certain subject. But maybe I'm just judging according to myself. I don't know, we have to ask our colleagues what drives them.
Yes. Davis, I want to also ask later about your film, but about this Rastorguev. What do you think? You saw it? Did it ring a bell somewhere?
Definitely, of course, the film, I think that the film approaches some of the issues that really concerns any film director, and in terms of documentary filmmakers, and most importantly, I think the question about it's not only about why we are making films or documentaries, but it's more like how we are doing, how we are making them, and there is some kind of a, you know, like what kind of energy is inside the film, and when it could be opened, and when it stays silent. So that is some of the things that were really interesting for me, and you just feel that there is a filmmaker with a very clear sight, a clear vision of what documentary filmmaking means. But at the same time, for me, I think the film made to reflect on maybe a little bit broader issues, because myself, I'm not courageous at all. I'm quite superficial, and and whenever there are like these difficult topics involved, I'm not the one that is jumping in and immediately. I'm quite this person that looks from a side and tries to reflect on it, but at the same time not really physically involve myself in something like this. But at the same time, I wanted to come back to the film. I think one of the even in the title of today's discussion, what is the aim or what is the purpose of documentary filmmaking in times when there are no barriers, then I think that is a categorically wrong sentence or notion, because I think we live in the times of very strict barriers, because I think we live in some kind of a, let's say, pre-revolutionary time when what we feel around us is this clear radicalization of people on the individual level, and this tends to it kind of goes further into some kind of ontological shift that is definitely interesting for documentary filmmakers. And I think this radicalization, that it's something that is that comes from this nowadays tendency of that I want to think with my own head. The problem is that there are no real thoughts in this head. So it's basically we see this kind of obscurantism or some darker age of humanity, and I think this is something that is definitely building barriers, creating barriers, and whether those are political or some kind of warlike or military, or those are just individual barriers. I think in both cases it's totally let's say the perfect fodder for filmmakers, and that I think is that we see that there are these, that in a way I think in the personality of Rastorguyev and in the film you could feel that he has both. His interest is in both, in these extreme let's say phenomena of politics but at the same time there is also some kind of a, you know, like on a very individual level the interest is there, and that for me is very important, because this is we live in a very very strange age when we sometimes tend not to discover that there is a, I think, crucial ontological shift that is happening just besides us, and the documentary filmmakers, they are definitely responsible to uncover this. And yeah, that those are my thoughts on this.
Are you speaking like about culture wars or
on the every level? On every level, it's to do with society. It's to do with and I think as I mentioned, it's one of this radicalization comes from not thinking. You know, from the total ignorance of this age, and the ignorance of course comes from the way that we are treating information, the way that we are communicating, like social networking and everything, that tends to like it goes into the direction of this radicalization. And as I said, in a negative sense, thinking with your own head, that is the as wrong as it could be, because when people start to think with their own heads, then there is definitely someone who will take care that these heads are thinking in a way that they need, and that leads to authoritarianism, totalitarianism, whatever. You know.
Okay. And in a sense of documentary filmmakers, they should also not think with their own heads, or they should try to catch the vibrations which could lead them somewhere. Because for me, in a way, at least in this old-fashioned, old-school documentarist is the one with the big heart, and who takes this camera, and he doesn't wait 1 year for a National Film Center to announce the competition for funding. Like actually we have a few of such people also in Latvia, like for example Ivars Viedris, who is this type of person who sees the problem, and he has this camera on the run, and he's going into the jungle. And actually I think also she recently started to make films, but Elita Kļaviņa, actually also such a person who was not, waiting for structures, but did also her first film a couple of years ago. And I think also in a way Ieva now suddenly izkrita viņas vārds no tā mūsu. Who are doing this, and I just wonder if we have a Zoom audience or not at the moment.
I will add something, because Kristin, you kind of asked me about the documentary filmmaking. I think the documentary filmmakers they are not ignorant, and that is the most important difference between them and the ones that are thinking with their own heads. Like that is I'm talking about that of course there has to be some kind of a reflective force behind anything that you are doing in your life. But the problem is that in most cases this reflection is not a real reflection, because it's based on a total ignorance. And documentary filmmakers, they are not ignorant at all. Whenever they are approaching a subject or a topic, they are involved, they are interested, and the interest creates energy, and the energy becomes the film. And that I think it's that is and there is a huge difference between what it means for a documentary filmmaker to think or to reflect on the subject, and what it means for the masses to think with their own heads.
But then I have a question. I'm sorry that I'm asking so much to you, but because when we were meeting in Dome Square almost a year ago or something, and we had a small conversation, and you told that in Latvia, in the film school, most of 90% of students are choosing not to make documentaries. They're choosing to make feature films. Short or long or whatever, but this is not anything that they are willing to do. And then we were consulting with our Baltic colleagues, like at least in Lithuania, very many students chooses to specialize in documentaries, and it's like really trend, and it's really big thing. Can you tell us a little bit why do you think it is like that?
I hope it's improving, and Elina is one of the cases that proves that. But it's, I think the main. I think that is that the question lies in the problem that in a way students always, or young people, they have this tendency of creating a totally new world, a kind of a world anew, and that tendency leads for them to be quite, let's say, snobbish about documentary, because documentary means to be there is a Russian expression na rebro, and you have to be very straight forward in terms of like approaching the topic, but the topic is a real topic. It's already there. It's already in the world, and that I think that there is some kind of a shift that they want to be, because they are quite ambitious, and they are quite let's say they want to embrace the world in whole, and that maybe leads to this little bit like a snobbish or arrogant attitude towards the documentary filmmaking. I hope that it's gradually changing. We are really working on that. So hopefully and Elita is also one of our students, former students, and so in that sense, I think that we see that things are changing, but very slowly. But all in all, I think and also somehow I think documentary filmmakers they are not so concerned with their status in society or status in some kind of a, let's say, festival circuit around the world or something like that. Like some kind of a artificial elements in their thoughts or minds, and that is again something, because there is also a tendency to kind of that you are proving yourself through the status, and that maybe also leads to this interest into the fiction more than it would be in documentaries.
No, hopefully you're not teaching them to think with their own heads in this.
Yeah, in some sense, not with their own heads, but truly and deeply into the subject.
Thank you very much.
Кристин,
Yes.
А я хотел бы вот вернуться к
I would like to
фильму
turn to the film, to return to the film of Rastorguev and to his personality, and ask a question to Zhenya, to two Zhenyas. Is Rastorguev and his destiny an exception from the rules, or it has like a common direction that has reached its peak of dramatism and tragedy? How typical documentary filmmaker is he? Like contemporary documentary filmmaker? Is it question to Zhenya Oktanina? It's to two Zhenyas, to you and to Zhenya Oktanina. Let's maybe first Zhenya say what she thinks. I will reply briefly. I don't think it's a common direction. I would like to hope, at least, that it's not like that. We were talking that documentary filmmaker should reflect the things that burn in them, but if there is a fireplace to boil eggs that burns inside him, and just even like a small fireplace, does he have right to be a documentary filmmaker? Should he burn from inside? Or Rastorguev was like beyond the limits? Beyond the limits of typical. Then we should understand how to measure this. How to measure this? Level of comfort, maybe? Life that Rastorguev has paid. It's a serious price. I think that this question is very narrow, because Sasha was his scope was much more wide. It is impossible to measure him. And I think that the film that Zhenya made gives an opportunity to understand his dimensions of his personality that you cannot fit in any kind of frame. And I think it was his most important quality, because talent, it was not possible to fit his talent in the models that we can use to measure it. And you are sitting here in this sunny terrace in Latvia, we are sitting in Zoom, and neither of these two sides can understand Rastorguev, and it's impossible. There were very serious claims towards us because it was said that this film cannot talk about Sasha in a way that it should be done. And I think that this proves that Rastorguev is a figure that we still have to think about, that we still have to appreciate, and the film is the first step in this direction. It's like introduction to Rastorguev. Okay. In competition of Artdocfest of this year there is an amazing there are amazing films loved by me also that exist outside the actual events and outside of the risk zones. And still these films are important artworks, but also there are films that explore the actual risks, the contemporary events, and it's also very powerful cinema. They live side by side comfortably, and so it is possible to follow contemporary issues, but also to distance oneself from them.
Мне кажется, что процесс происходит и в Латвии.
And I think that the process that's happening in Latvia and also in other Baltic states and in Russia, it is something that leads us astray from the contemporary issues. So there are more films in general, but the films that are on the edge, their amount is growing smaller. Is there any kind of tendency or dependence?
It depends what you call strategy. This I don't know how it in English.
It depends what you call on the edge.
Like I was talking with one very good. And hello, we have Viktor Kosakovsky here. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. I was talking with one very nice DOP cameraman. His name is Valdis Celmiņš, and he was telling me one thing. You know, in the Baltics we have this color set. It's very much based on gray. That there's, you know, especially in the springtime, while the leaves are not coming out yet, that there is very many these nuances. This, you know, this gray and this little bit brownish gray and this and this. And our famous painter Purvītis has painted like iconic works with these kind of nuances and so. And he said that he was working with. DOPs and camera persons from south, where there is like very bright colors and very strong this. And when this southern cameraman came to here, he didn't see this our nuances, these very small slight differences, which our people just the eye is set like that. And then in this sense, when you were speaking about this strategy on this knife, I was thinking maybe when you see such a film as Rastorguev and in Russia and Ukraine and Belarus and Georgia, there are such big issues that are taking all the attention. But in some other places, for example, now in the Baltics, we are also on this knife, but with different color set, let's say like this. And on this, when you put them together, then maybe one film may seem very important and another less important because it's not dealing maybe with the human rights or other strong questions, but they're still very important. And actually, I also sent one small short film to all participants, film by Maria Stonita, It's called One Life, about butterflies, which is actually taking up a very, very big and epochal issue, but it's playing with these nuances like this. Small things, there is no wars, no human issues, nothing like that. This I wanted to say. And Victor, we saw your film yesterday. It was very, very interesting.
Sorry, I don't know what I don't know the subject what you're talking about, but the last what I understood when you speak about colors.
Yes.
Maybe it's totally out of the subject. Sorry, but for me it's one of the most important questions. For example, difference between Baltic cinema, St. Petersburg cinema, and Moscow cinema, based on this. We use different lenses, different filters, because we definitely depth of field is completely different in Baltic and St. Petersburg and Moscow, and that's why composition is different, because the whole story of image, the image, how you build image, you make an image in 2D, and you have to give impression of 3D, and the fact of sky, the fact of not dry, when air is not dry, you use totally different lines to have it's much easier to build 3D effect here than in Moscow. So that's why we have much more rich image visually in Baltic scene, St. Petersburg. That's why, same is north of Poland, for example. They have, same in Germany, north of Germany and south of Germany, they have different school in cinema. And I still believe that cinema, that's why, for example, my life changed exactly. I was 17 years old and I came first to learn film. And I was assistant cameraman, and then DOP cameraman Diakonov said to me, "No, go to a documentary studio. It will be better for you because you don't want to change. You like to watch, and you don't want to artificial light. You prefer normal light." So I came to St. Petersburg documentary studio, and that day Podnieks was there and Gertz was there, and they present and someone else, and I don't remember who third one, and they present 3 films. One of them was 10 minutes older. They knew it, just say it was just made, and 2 more films, and it was like so revolutionary for me. I just came first day to film studio. I was 17 years old, and so the idea to film without words, the idea to film one shot, actually Gunda, the last shot, right, 15 minutes. And my first film I made, Losiev, there is one shot 10 minutes older, also 10 minutes there, just 10 minutes, one shot, no cut. And I finished film Losiev, and I came first here to Symposium, by the way, in 1989, and Gertz watched it, and he said, "Yeah, but you still have to think about viewers a little bit." So for me, to be here and to be in this symposium, it was very big step in my life. And yeah, I don't know, I'm probably out of content. I just came and start talking nonsense. Sorry.
We are all out of context because we are our motto or code for this symposium, also for this festival, is restrictions, because we have these restrictions everywhere. Some are technical, people cannot attend, and a lot of people are sitting in Zoom, but we don't see them actually. So we just take it as it is. We improvise a bit. But now I'm also starting to jump a little bit in the subjects, but as you touch this symposium thing, I just wanted to say in the very beginning the small tribute to our old Symposium makers who were doing it for 30 years, from 1977 to 2007. And all this generation of the 60s and 70s and 80s, and Juris Podnieks, Hertz Franks, and Ivar Seleckis, and Mark Sosar, and Henrika Shabljavičius, and Andres Söt. And you too, actually, you from younger generation, but you also gain a lot, as I have heard from these symposiums, and we are trying. Of course, we cannot do it like it was before, but we are trying to I don't know, to do some legacy on that. And then I just wonder if Ivar Seleckis has finally on Zoom. Ivars, vai tu tur esi? No, but anyway, Ivar Seleckis has installed Zoom yesterday, and he was trying, and it was good, but he cannot come to here because he just got his second vaccination, and for several days he cannot to be with people, and we are all restricted.
I don't want to disturb the discussion. I can just say that I'm very happy that all of you have seen the film, and it's important for me. Thank you. Thank you, Vitaly, for this opportunity. And it's important for us that this film was available to you, and it was important to hear that this film is shown not only in Russia, but also outside, and it's important for us that people from the outside see it. And we hope that there will be some international route of this film. Going back to the discussion, maybe from here to talk, it's more difficult for us to talk about this from here, from Moscow, because we are in the center of the big explosion that is happening right now. And so, looking at this terrace, my thoughts are just going in different directions.
We understand you completely, actually, because I feel a little bit uneasy when I'm thinking about things that are happening around, but this is now our reality. And actually, we were in the same, no, not the same, but also so-called epicenter or such kind of reality 30 years ago. And then everything was burning in here in the Baltics, and we had friends around, Scandinavians and different in other countries, and they were very, very kind of with us in their thoughts. But at the same time, at 7 o'clock, they had to go to dinner, because it was dinner on, and it was very important. And we couldn't understand, like, how you can think it's like a metaphor. Of course, not particularly they had to go to dinner, but I mean this. How can this be important when here are these these barricades and we have to fight for the freedom and all these things. And now we are sitting in this sunny terrace, actually, and we are trying to figure out what to do, because we know that the barricades are around, but we have this sun right now, and we are trying to figure out what is the role or mission of a documentary filmmaker. Something like that. This is our topic today. And actually, when we were thinking, Vitaly, you had a nice thought about Juris Podnieks. What would he film today? And when I was speaking with Laila Pakalniņa about this, and she was sure that he would be in politics right now. Do you think like that?
From the other side, Vita remembered films of Gertz. Juris Podnieks was the cameraman, and Podnieks was
Podnieks,
preaching another
проповедовал
style of cinema.
совершенно
He
другое
wasn't
кино.
Barricades.
Он
He
был на
was
баррикадах.
a tribunal
Он был
orator.
трибуном. И он
And
в
it
этом
was the
видел
meaning of
смысл
his
жизни
life,
и
the
смысл
meaning of the
профессии.
profession. I'm curious if
Любопытно,
today,
вот сегодня
what would Podnieks film
Podnieks,
today in this
он что бы
successful
снимал в этой
and
благополучной,
maybe
в чем-то
a
да
bit
простят меня
comfortably
мои коллеги,
dreamy
комфортно
country of
спящей
Latvia?
Латвии.
What would he do?
Где бы
Would
он
he
был?
film flowers?
Он бы цветочки, о которых ты говорила,
I'm sorry. He wouldn't be in Latvia. I think he would be because he was like in terms of the scope. He was of course on the level of the whole world, and he would be interested in the most, let's say, he would try to find these tectonic clashes in the world, and he would try to capture them, because I think Latvia would definitely be quite interesting for him. He wouldn't be interested in some kind of local contexts, but I think one of the reasons for that is because he was not, because we sometimes tend to talk about Podnieks as someone who would be interested on the very individual level in human beings, but I think he was totally the opposite. He was interested in some kind of prophet. He was like a prophet who would like talk about some kind of a social tendencies and try to predict the future. And in that sense, I think that he would look around the whole world and try to find these, let's say.
I talked to him once seriously a few times. I agree with you. I talked to him a few times briefly, but once we talked quite long. His idea was the last one. It was just probably a couple of months before he died, and and then I came to funeral, of course. But before the last talk we had, he had idea of super film, of super documentary. Like maybe what I'm trying to do, maybe is to bring cinema to the cinema theaters, to bring documentary to the cinema theaters in order that it could be screened every corner in the world, and just to make it kind of universal in a way, right? He had this idea of super documentary, not just local documentary, but documentary which would be universal. And he, I don't know. Of course, he was different. Of course, for me, he was a little bit businessman. He was also businessman. I look at him as a person who was brave enough to. In that time, it was quite extraordinary. He had company, he had cameras, he had people working with him. For that time, it was absolutely extraordinary for Soviet Union. And the way he dressed and everything was extraordinary. He was an extraordinary person, of course. But the idea of making super documentary, it was his. I don't know if he pronounced it here clearly, but in a way, I'm trying to follow this. But my way, I mean, he was different. He was more energetic. I'm more pacifist. I'm trying to be. I'm misanthrope in a way, so I'm trying to be calm. But I don't know if you remember, Vitaly. Many years ago, you make interviews with me and you ask me situation Titanic. I don't know, it was in TV. You were boss of a TV station or something. So and it was an interview, and you asked me, imagine situation we are in Titanic, and there are many possibilities. What are you gonna do there? You can run to the dinghy and push away everyone, or you can help people, to women and children, or you can play violin. What you would choose? And I said, I will film until the last. This is what we have to do. You know what we have to, because in somewhere in '97, Lala called me from Jerusalem, and she said to me, Pavel, missing you. Pavel wants you to come, and please come. And I said, okay, I will come. I bought a ticket. Just the day before my flight, she called me again. She said, Pavel said, take camera. I said, what? Yes, Pavel said, take camera. Okay, I came to St. Petersburg studio, and I asked boss of the studio, do you have any camera here? He said, yeah, we start calling to Linfield. We found one reflex in St. Petersburg, BL. And then, do we have any film? Do we have any? We found 9 rolls of black and white film. So I asked my friend soundman and the boss of the studio. They decided to fly with me. So we came there, and I was not able to film. It's about talking about responsibility. I filmed one shot. We came to his room, and he was not able to talk. I filmed a little bit here on terrace, and then I was paralyzed. I was not able to film. Few days later, I was only 5 days altogether there. Few days later, in the last day, he was better. He said to me, I was filming few times when people dying. Now I have to pay. Now you have to film me. And I started filming him. Then I came to St. Petersburg. I was sure I have 90 minutes film. I had 9 rolls, 10 minutes each, and I was sure I have 90 minutes film. I came to St. Petersburg. I developed footage, and 60% of it was technical error. So they gave me only 30 minutes from laboratory, only 30 minutes. From 30 minutes, I made 30 minutes film, and I screened it in Dom Kino. And one very good filmmaker, one of the best filmmaker, I don't know what he's doing now. He disappeared. I like him a lot. He was really talented guy. I don't know why he's not making movies at the moment. He stood up and he said, Victor, what a shame. Lala was pushing Pavel up to the hill, and Pavel was in a wheelchair, and she was pushing him up. And it was obviously difficult for her to push. And you fucking asshole, instead of helping her, you were filming it. And I said to him, by luck, Igor, I have $500 in my pocket. I give it to you, take a plane. She needs your help every day because she every day makes this trip to the hospital. This is what it is. We same like people ask me, why you didn't save that little piglet? Gunda killed piglet. Why you didn't stop her? Why you didn't? It's very weird question, right? People every day killing piglets every day. While we're talking 1 hour, it will be over 200,000 pigs killed just during 1 hour. It's like last 2020 numbers just came, new numbers. 2020, we killed 1.5 billion pigs in 2020. So, and people say to me, why you didn't stop her? It's like absurd. My question is more, maybe you will say that it's again, I'm making it less important, the conversation. My question would be different. How we can smile, how we can talk about cinema, how we can do, I don't know, talk show, how we can do this discussion if we know that now, for example, they're killing Navalny. How we can even talk about, if we know that our president is a killer, if we know, if we have proof, how we can even imagine in our family would be, imagine we are family and the policeman knocked to the door and said, guys, one of you is a killer. We will say, hey, wait a second, we cannot continue, we cannot drink tea, we cannot dance, we cannot watch TV, we cannot do anything. We will stop and say, who, right? We will ask, who is a killer? You're saying one of us is killer. And how we can live if we know that one of us is killing people frequently, like one after another, and we have to stop and say, who is this person? Who is it? Is it Putin? Is it someone else? Who killed Nemtsov? Who killed Politkovsky? Who killed Rastorgov? We have to stop. And before we stop, I don't understand why we are talking about something else, unless it's more important than our life. That's why I have film pigs, because it's probably more important than...
Да, it's true. Да.
Yes.
Да. Это
It is important for us.
важно для
but
нас.
For an
эстонскому
Estonian
документалисту,
filmmaker,
как бы насколько
how
важно,
it
что
would be
наш
how important for
президент
him is to understand that
наш
our
президент.
president is a killer.
Извини, sorry. This is not about our president. This is about biggest country in the world with nuclear weapon. Biggest country in the world with nuclear weapon. For example, me, every time crossing border with Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, Poland, Armenia, I feel shame. I give my passport, red one, and I feel shame that I'm coming here. Because I know you have point, people who lives here. People who live here, they have a point not to like Russians. I know. And when you, for example, when you moved to Latvia, it was kind of protest. I don't know your motivation. I think it was against the fact that Putin took Crimea. And I said to myself, why he came to Latvia? Why not to Ukraine? Why? Because every time I said, I shouldn't go to Latvia. I was not able to refuse your invitation this time. But I was not coming here because for me, it's a shame to come. I think Latvian people, Estonian people, Lithuanian people, they have rights to be free from our presence, at least a little bit. So I'm trying not to come because for me, I know we bad things for you, and I know, and problem is we don't even accept that fact that we made it. We still believe, no, you came to Soviet Union. Recently, our president said you came to the Soviet Union by your own will. This is shame or shameless. I don't know what.
Yes, but Victor, I just want to reflect a little bit. So you are exile Russians, because you don't live in Russia either. And it feels that you have this, because we have long history with exiled people, that you, with your heart and your thoughts and emotions, you are there. You are in Russia, but you are in different places. So at the same time, I feel that also somehow we need your presence, because you bring us in these emotions that right now on this sunny terrace, maybe we would not talk about. We would drink wine. Actually, where is the wine? We would drink wine and talk about, the first world problems already 30 years later.
But don't you think it's stupid that we are still... Look, if you read Anna Karenina, remember...
I have read it 5 times.
Yeah, okay. Remember, wife of Levin is pregnant. He runs to doctor. Doctor is sleeping. He said to the guy on the door, "Oh, wake him up. He told me as soon your wife will start, I will help you. No, he's sleeping. I cannot help you." Then he give him money. That guy goes and wakes up the doctor, right? Anna Karenina coming to her house, her own house, to meet her son, Sergei. On his birthday, what she did first? She had money in the pocket. She knocked at the door, and she gave money to her servant, in order she will see her son. If you read any of Russian book of 18th century, 19th century, corruption system is part of the life. I'm not talking second part of Мертвые души even. I'm just even Leskov. Did you read this Смех и горе? it's even so. The young boy, 20 years old boy, walking on the street, he wants to rent apartment, and someone said to him, go to this house. Go to this house. He came to the house. In the house, the officer, Capitan, and very nice room. In the evening, Capitan comes to him, say, "Did you read this book? Very nice book. Read it." He said, "Okay, put it on the table." In the morning, someone knocked to the door. He opens the door. Police. "Oh, you have a book. This book is forbidden. Go to prison." Guy did not even touch this book, young boy. He looked at the boy, to the captain, and said, Hey, you gave me this book." And captain said, "Don't take it personally. Listen, I'm still captain. All my classmates already, polkovnik, general, I'm still captain. Okay, you will be in prison a little bit, and I will be mayor." So, 200 years ago, nothing. Read Gertsen, Below Думай. Nothing, simply nothing. It's always this. It's always here. It's so, and we still don't understand this. That's why for me to fight with, I wanted to make film about corruption. You know what happened to me? I made one shot. They recognize what I'm doing. They block me on the road. They didn't say what. They shot my wheels. They came, they blocked me on the road. They shot foam off my wheels. Immediately, they took camera. They took everything from my car, hard drives. And they said to me, "Say hello to your son. He lives in Shanghai. Say hello to him." And they left. Few months later, they knew I was in an airplane. They came to my apartment. My father-in-law was at home. And they start torturing him. They pretend they came to make robbery. And they almost did kill him. When I came home, it was everything in blood. All apartment was in blood. The only thing they took was my camera and hard drives. Nothing else. So you see how we can. This is why I'm filming Antibodies. This is why I'm filming Aquarella. This is why I'm filming pigs. Because even just to start talking about present life, they just put you in the place and they shut up and say hello to your son who lives in Shanghai. This is why I'm not in Russia.
Okay, I understand, but what should we do then? You have chosen your way, and we know 100,000 stories like this about this corruption and shooting the wheels and stuff. What should we do? We should not let these Russians take over all discussion.
But Ivar Seletsky, who lived in
Ivar,
Soviet
are you there?
Union
Ivar,
half of his life.
У него есть какой-то собственный
Does he have his own algorithm?
Ivar,
I would like to congratulate this amazing company that is doing what they like. And I also would like to congratulate Artdocfest with the decision to make the festival. It's very necessary, and so I wish you to continue this tradition in the future, and also to continue with this format of conversations. And it's important that these conversations exist. But the quality of sound is not the best one. And talking about Rastorguev, this film is not yet made. The material is huge. And I think that the beginning, where he's like playing for the camera, maybe that part could be shorter. Not many documentary filmmakers treat material this way, from ethical perspective. I know that the people like this exist, but I think that in Latvia people wouldn't just do like that. Our traditions are different. And if comparing the films, I really like the film Gunda. I have often thought about this parallel world, about these creatures that are not less intelligent than us, that are the same intelligence, but I haven't yet made anything about them. So, Victor, congratulations for an amazing film. I'm happy to see you. And I would have to show you some material I was shooting 25 years ago. And I hope that the symposium continues with a better sound. Thank you so much, Ivar. I love you very much. What should be our focus? What should be focus of Baltic filmmakers, since already for 30 years we live in peace, at least 10 years our life is very good. So what about, what should be topics of our cinema? I think the most important thing is relationship between people. And every one of us comes from a different world, so it's interesting to research how this works.
He says the most important is a relationship between people. And we all come from different worlds, and these worlds have very interesting relationships, and we should focus on that.
Простите, sorry, Ivar, can I... When he made this улица Поперечная,
he doesn't know English. Ivar, I would like to talk with you. So, you were so important person for me when I came, when you showed your film about the street in the Leningrad's festival. Because what was most important in this film? There are two moments. I think one of them you remember, and second one you do not. And so the second moment changed my life. So the first one was the form, the shape. So he restricted his material to the people who live on this small street, and so the shape came from the object. So restrictions imposed by the street and people who live there. So anyone who is doing art understands this. But the second moment was amazing, and you formulated in a very simple way. People asked you, why these people? And you said, yeah, because they live here on the street. We could think that it's like peanuts, but in reality, I will tell the importance of it. So the secret that I'm also using in my film comes from this film. Some years ago, I made a film Wednesday, and it was about the people who were born in the same place and in the same year and in the same hospital where I was born. It was 51 girl and boy. The premiere was in Berlin Festival, and a very good Russian film director, and I respect him very well. He's still alive. He was also on this festival, and he came to me and he asked. I was given the Fipressi prize, and he told me, "Aren't you ashamed? Why did you choose these people who are so unsuccessful? Where is Akhmatova? Where is Anatoly Karpov?" I looked at him. He's like very important director and everybody respects him. And I told him, listen, I didn't choose them. Maybe on Tuesday Akhmatova was born, or on Thursday somebody else, but on Wednesday these people were born. So you would like Russia to look that bad? And I said, God was my co-author because they were born. And so that's the same thing that Ivars did. He said, these people live here on this street, so it is how it is. And so maybe in another day the things would be different, but there is the part that I cannot change, and it's very important for me. So I'm a screenwriter, director, cameraman. These are things I can control, but there are things that I cannot control, so God is my co-author. Thank you so much. I respect you, and I was trying to copy you for some time and wear this hat of yours, but I looked pathetic, and everybody were calling me, oh, it's Rembrandt of the documentary cinema, and so I took this hat off not to look stupid. It's not that Rembrandt is stupid, but I didn't want to be a copy of Rembrandt.
It's very interesting that it was because of the beret, because I have heard people telling about you that you are Rembrandt of documentary cinema, and I thought it was because of your films, that they are so beautiful and artistic, but it turns out it's only just because of this beret. All this tackle is...
You still fly on the spaceship.
You are on spaceship. I hear very, very badly, like in Soviet spaceship launches, when I remember from childhood. The sound is crazy. But give word to Elina. I see you haven't given her word. I hear interesting bits, and Rembrandt of documentary cinema, that was Victor, fantastic. And great, Victor. Good to see you in Riga after Shanghai. Ciao. But maybe Elina can say something, because I don't know if you hear me okay, but...
Ask a question to Elina, ask a question.
Your sound is better.
All this, I just want to say, and to everybody is equal participant. I know that we are like far away, but you are equal participant. Please ask a question to Elina.
No, then I can say quickly, I watched all the films, and I can say it was very interesting collection. I saw 4 films, the film about Colombia, in what we had the screening, then Elina's film on small screen, Maria's film I saw earlier, the beautiful poetic butterfly film, and then film about Rastorguyev, just Patrios Minya. I don't know English word for this.
Blow out my mind.
Because it was really, I watched it twice, and first 20 minutes have been, I just thought, is it something for me or not? But I knew him. I actually watched 10 years or even more earlier, all the 5 hours of beach film in Moscow. I was on screening in Kinodom, in Italy. And it was similar like with that film. I started to watch it and I understood who I am, why I'm here. But then slowly the film sucked me in. It was an amazing experience. And this film, when I saw the scene in the bus, the end scene in the bus, I just said, Jesus, как глоток свежей воды. Again, I start speak my Russian. I haven't spoken long, but this was really, I saw the director on the opposite side of the screen, and I felt sad for him not being with us, but his works will for sure inspire a lot of generations. And the end scene, his talk with directors, maybe it was too long, but I also understand why it's so long. But this film still stays on the top for me to think, to rethink about the mission of documentary film. I think this film, the same like Ivar Zvedi's film Documentarian, which is used in film schools. I think film about Rastorguyev should be in the program of film schools. And Elina's film, again, that's another case for me. I'm evaluating as a simple viewer. I'm not a producer, not a cameraman, which I wanted to be, but as a simple person. Elina's film about the friendship of 2 kids in Georgia, because Georgia, my beloved second country after Latvia, and Ukraine, of course, in between. But this simplicity and this human touch in that film, it stuck me from another corner, because we saw 4 different approaches, and it was so strong. And it's Elina's first film, and I know that she is coming from completely different business, from NATO. Yeah, Elina. and you just have chosen to make films and go on. Of course, there could be, I would maybe edit some parts differently and so on, but honestly, how you made it and understood, I felt how you experienced this with your cameraman being there. I think that the message about the human touch I think this again proved me that we filmmakers, that's our mission, to keep alive this message about the human touch in this bloody Zoom and bad sound era. I think the films communicate this through all the walls. It's so strong. And Maria's film is the same. And the film of Chilean Estonian filmmaker, which we watched it was another extremely strong human touch, even, and that also teaches you, not teaches, but gives you a message. Everyone from us is different, and we need to understand it's a different game with different person. It's different culture. Respect it. Don't try to teach him to be a different person. And again, I think mission of documentary filmmaker is show how beautiful, how colorful the world is. And please send me a link of Victor's film. I haven't seen it. I want to see it. Thank you.
Yeah, we cannot send you a link to Victor's film because we are not sending links. This time we have an analog festival and we are keeping the cinema traditions alive. You didn't hear the beginning, but there was a special speech. So this time we are, the restrictions are conquering us and we are bowing before them, but we are not giving up. And you will see Victor's film when it will be in cinema, I hope.
On big screen, okay, or even better.
On the big screen, because this is the principle. Then, Elina, do you have anything to respond? Where is your question to Elina?
Actually, my question is, like Victor said, Ivars is Rembrandt of documentary cinema by look also, not only by his fantastic films. Elina, why do you decided to move to documentary cinema, which is absolutely uncommercial, and you're going into kind of lot of responsibilities? That's another side effect of this. It's a lot of responsibilities. What was your drive to move to be a filmmaker and to be in a documentary field?
Yeah, I think it's been something that I wanted for many, many years. I actually went to our Academy of Culture back in '98 to become either a film director or a cinematographer. And because there was no real access to internet at the time, I arrived. Yeah. So I arrived and they said, look, girl, it's very nice that you came, but we don't actually accept this course every year. It's every other year or every 4 years. I can't even remember. And they said, you can come back next year. But in '98, it was real shame. How do you go home and tell your parents you're not entering university? So I said, okay, what else do you have? And this is how I went along a completely different path. But somewhere inside, it's always interested me. And the story with Georgia, it's been just, in some ways, coincidence. I've gravitated closer and closer to this country. The little girl who is kind of the main heroine of this film, I've known her for 10 years now. And she was the only refugee baby in a refugee camp in Tbilisi, on the outskirts of Tbilisi. I came there shortly after the war with small money that was just donated by ordinary Latvian people. I think it just demonstrated how powerful this war was in terms of shaking up Latvians here. We had, I think, the biggest demonstration since independence against this war in 2008 here in Riga. So people wanted to help in any way they could, and that's how I met this girl. And then it just happened that I ended up in Georgia. I found her and maintained contact throughout the years. But then what happened was her mother had to leave to Italy as an illegal worker. And she literally, I would say, lived as a prisoner in Italy. And this girl was completely alone. All her life was destroyed. She had to change school. She had to change town, return back to the refugee village that she had left for 2 years. And it was just so painful. And I thought, that's it. I'm sorry, Dav Siemens, but you have to accept me into the film school and teach me how to show this to the world, because I just felt that it's terrible that these things happen and we get all excited in a kind of negative way about them. And then we forget. It's same about Ukraine. It's nearly off the agenda. all these dead people are just statistics. We're not that nervous about it anymore, right? And these people in Georgia, their lives have been completely destroyed. These kids potentially have no future, little chance for future. And they live just 30 kilometers from Tbilisi. It's this huge settlement of nearly 3,000 families. And most of Georgians drive past it every day. You can see it very well from the road. And nobody really cares. Even the government for many years already has kind of forgotten about them. Even politicians don't visit them anymore to kind of boost their reputation. And I thought, well, we have to come back to this. But yes, there was this personal connection, but I just thought, just so unfair. Why are we not talking about this? It's wrong. And I understand that the life of a filmmaker is very difficult. Everybody chooses their own path. What are their limits? I think for me, it will probably always remain a very expensive hobby. But I'm already thinking about my next film. And I want to keep doing this. I think this has changed my life completely. I'm a different person now. And I'm very happy about it. It's the best thing that's happened to me.
Well, there you see. Documentaries that change lives. Good. Okay, I wanted to ask if Carlos Lesmes, are you there? Because there was one more film from Estonia, actually, Estonia, Colombia, which is like kind of also taking up the same issues, but from totally different angle. There was one Estonian person missing in Colombia. He had started to take drugs, but he had a very loving mother at home who all the time keep sending him money. He said, oh, he's in trouble. I will just send a little bit. He calls me. He needs some 300 euros more. And he disappeared in this drug jungle there on the streets. And mother sent his sister to look for him there. And sister, almost like looking for Sugarman type of movie, is looking for this for her brother in this totally crazy environment in this Colombian street where people are laying down and you pick up and looking for her brother. Very interesting. I thought from that point of sense that it's like different challenge. It's also life awakening. It's a global, totally different angle. It's not about us, not about wars, not about Russia for one time, but about the very human issue. But if nobody can hear us, then maybe we should drop for the last time. I will not ask anymore.
No, but it's interesting that films from Baltic states are getting shot outside of the Baltic region. So author find his points of pain not in the places where they live, but in other worlds. For example, Russian authors, they are sinking in the sea of pain at home, but also there are Polish, Belgian and French authors who come to Russia to seek this pain or to the post-Soviet countries.
Yes, for example, I was speaking with Tuesten Miller. He was heading a Danish film board for 20 years, an EDN network. And he says that 90% of Danish documentaries are shot outside. There's nothing to shoot at home. It's like boring, they say. And they are actually going to the hot points and they're making very good documentaries, but not at home. Just to add to your reflections.
So Latvia in some sense, and also Estonia, and also Lithuania or Denmark, they will not get their film chronics, the record of this calm and chilled reality in the film media. So there will be no bricks in this
Можно я
basement.
позволю здесь
Can
одно предположение?
Can I
Или лучше
tell
по-английски сказать?
one
по-английски.
remark?
In English, I think it's not. I think you're not right because there is a substitute which is very strong nowadays for this documentary about your country. Let's say it can be very calm country, of course, with nothing really painful going on, but we have YouTube. And now we, in our magazine Art of Cinema, Искусство кино, we are preparing a big, I don't know, like 10, 15 articles of philosophers, sociologicals, and politologues and filmmakers, film critics about what is it YouTube, how does it work, and sometimes it helps to fill the void for the need of describing, let's say, a normal life. When the filmmaker, the artist, sometimes go outside.
Филолог. Браво. Я буду продолжать твою... For me, this is very important. There are three components very important. First of all, we are not talking about motivation, right? We never... and normally when critics discuss about movie, they talk about subject, character, cinema language. They don't discuss two more elements. First, motivation. Why filmmaker was making it? Why? And I don't think it's to tell something. I don't think it's a case to tell you something, or I believe it's to show something. But the question is, what is happening today? When we say, oh, we're filming outside of Russia, outside of Latvia, when you see film about dolphin, is it different for you? Is it dolphin from Spain or from France or from Italy? Or is it dolphin like a creature? I guess it's for you important that you're talking about dolphin as a creature, right? We came to the moment when we already understood that social situation making us different, yes. But still there are questions, what is human as a creature? What is it? It doesn't matter. Of course, there are creature, Soviet Union creature, human, Soviet Union human, and European human, and Latin American, they are different things. But still, what is inside this? That's why could be that for me, that to find Leonardo was saying, there are few elements which why we are dominating. Not because we are more intelligent than others, not because we are using symbols, but because we are most cruel, most aggressive creature. And talking about cinema, he also said there are three types of people. There are people who can see, there are people who can see if you show them, and there are people they will never see even you show them. And the question is for whom we are doing movie. It was period when everyone said, no, I'm making films for people I'm making film for myself. Or they are making film for people who understand me. In my point, I came to conclusion, I have to make movie for those who do not see when I show them. Even when I show them, they still do not see. Yesterday, I had a Gunda screening in provincial town, in very provincial town. And it was Zoom's conversation. They have like 50,000 people. They never watched any documentary before. They don't know what is it. And then they come into microphone crying, saying to me, oh, we didn't know this exists. So, and no one asked me why Gunda is from Norway, why chicken is from Wales, why. It's just, there are things... I guess. But coming back to Anton, he will correct me if I'm wrong. I'm afraid to pronounce it because he is philolog. But okay, I will try. I believe we are in the time when in 15, 20 years will appear real cinema. real great cinema, as real great literature appears in 18th, 19th century. And the reason why literature appeared, because in the beginning of literature was for people who are educated, for people who, if you read, for example, if you read Cervantes, a lot of talk about Rycerski Romany, about like, and special, only few educated women reading Rycerski Romany, all this stuff. Then happens something important. Then appear people who are educated, and they start write letters to each other. And when they start writing letters to each other, they understood different between what's written and what's saying. I can say I love you, but it doesn't mean anything. I love you, Igor. But it will be different if I will write to him, I love you, Igor. It will be, he will open an envelope and he will see, I love you, Igor. He will probably will say, what the hell, right? So it's different thing. Same with, so when people start writing letters to each other, they understood different between what's written and what's saying. And then this is why in the 18th, 19th century appears great literature we all know as great literature. Same happening now in cinema. First 100 years, it was just Rycerski Romany, same story. It was just for those who knows how to, who make movie, And now everyone can write letters to each other with mobile phone, can film and understand. It's not you anymore. It's someone looks like you, but not you. I'm filming you with my mobile phone, but it's not you anymore. It's someone else. And this understanding of difference between reality and image of reality, this will educate people to understand language of cinema. And this is why I believe next 15, 20 years, we will have finally Dostoevsky and Tolstoy and in cinema. We will have. You're gonna see it. You're gonna see it.
You prepare your magazine.
Well, I'm always prepared, and I'm against this prejudices that the true cinema is dead in 70s, and now we have just the substitute. I disagree. Every year I see new types of cinema. We're trying to describe it, to analyze it, and I want to believe what Victor's saying, but most definitely, even if he's too optimistic or idealistic, the cinema in 15 years will be completely different from what we have now. Because 10 years ago, it was a privilege to have a gadget to film something. Now it's normal for everyone, for every kid. So now, of course, with YouTube or other tools, it will be the cinema becoming more universal. It's happening right now, I agree.
I think there's an interesting parallel because like there was the cinematographer who worked for brothers Lumiere's in late 19th century, and his name was Boleslav Matuszewski, and he was the one who was like promoting the idea that it would be great to have this huge archive of the whole history of humankind being captured by film. But of course, at that time, it wouldn't be possible. Then the question would be, what would be his attitude when he would now get to know YouTube or
this is the dream we're living now, and I can say about Dziga Vertov, who is very connected with Vitaly and his films and his ideas. Now in couple of weeks in Moscow, we will have big retrospective of Dziga Vertov. And the people who are organizing it, they called it not retrospective, but futurospective. Because the idea of Dziga Vertov was to stay neutral and not to interfere in the reality and to show it. And of course, it wasn't possible. It was the part of big propaganda. But now it is possible. So some dreams and some ideas, avant-garde ideas of Dziga Vertov are realizing now. So it is really a futurospective. He hadn't this idea that it can realize in 100 years. But in fact, it is.
In 2005, he made interview with Herz Frank in Moscow. There was this film festival, and Herz Frank told that his film 10 Minutes Older that you mentioned that it was just taken when it was made as a like joke or something, not important. And 28 years later in Leipzig, it was shown as in the program New Tendencies. New Tendencies. It was, I think, it was quite funny.
Sometimes when we're filming this reality, we're filming future. We cannot say it. We don't know it. But sometimes future can show us that we were looking into the future, not knowing it. And sometimes we're speaking about it when we're discussing futuristic fiction cinema, about Back to the Future or Blade Runner, what was predicted right, what was predicted wrong. But in fact, documentary filmmaking is also able to do the same.
It was actually Juris Podnieks saying to his film group, just take your cameras and go out. And
yeah, in fact, Podnieks was the one who he even, it was before the collapse of the Soviet Union. He was the one who he met for the first time in his life. He met Pavel Globa, and he started this idea that it's almost like that he is a character of Joseph from the Bible. That he's in a way possible to see some kind of images of future, and he started the film about collapse of Soviet Union before any collapse could even happen. That was a one sentence from Pavel Globa that he said there will be a collapse of Soviet Union in next 2 years, and that what triggered Podnieks to start his this big cycle of films that he made in the change between the 80s and 90s.
The simple proof of this idea, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to get more precise answer from Vitya. So you said that cinema will still be born, like cinema is a big art. So people, so the works by Vertov, Eisenstein, or Hertzfrank, so these are like cave paintings. Yeah.
Yeah, I think your interpretation absolutely right. So look, if you look to literature, you look Orwell, and he definitely much before what happened, he knew what will happen. If you read, like, how do you call this, 2048, right, or 2042 book? Yeah, he knew 50 years before that KGB and religion will come together so big writers have ability to predict future, and unfortunately, there is no great filmmaker who can compete. You cannot even. We are trying to understand cinema language. We are trying to, but there is no any film which change life of people. Like in the level of. I don't know. In my opinion, even though I hate when my friend Sakurov always saying, "Oh, cinema is just nothing." I still believe cinema is not nothing. Cinema is the most beautiful thing, in my opinion. But I still believe the real filmmakers will appear soon. We are not real filmmakers. We are just trying to understand what is it, the power. For example, I tell you one thing. I know for myself, whatever I need. If I need rain now, and I will put camera here, will be rain. If, for example, I was filming for Aquarelle, I was filming Kelvin. Scientists said to me, you have to plan like 2, 3, maybe 4 months waiting for this shot. So what we did, we make a team, we make a tent, we bought a tent, we bought food, we bought everything, a part of water, because you can take glacier water from glacier icebergs. So, and we came, and we were supposed to wait there a few months. We did not even so we have to climb few hours mountains in Greenland. We landed from the boat. We climbed mountains few hours. We did not have even time to unpack our stuff. And it started right away. I live now in Berlin, and in front of me there is a stairs, looks like in Eisenstein film, this famous stairs in Braninosец.
Stairs in Odessa.
Yeah.
Odessa. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and the people there, they're jumping. They have to call it parkour. How do you call it now? They're all young people jumping from one place. How do you call it? Parkour, yeah. So, and they're doing it every day from 5 to 70 years old, like all a range of people. And when I look at them, I always say, wow, that's so amazing. So amazing, because it's like you see how different. I can make second part of Tisha, because Tisha from window in St. Petersburg, and here is from window in Germany. But what I'm said to you, no, don't do it, because if you will put camera, someone will fall and break his neck. This is power of camera. I don't know why it is, but it's true. For example, in Aquarella again, I came to Baikal to film beautiful eyes. I came to Baikal to see this in the morning when temperature is changing. Appears this is beautiful, unbelievable beautiful узоры на льду. Они трещины, эти cracks, and so beautiful and so great sound. And I came to film it, but my camera wasn't in custom for 1 week, and during that week rain come, and beautiful transparent. Actually, the ice there 1 meter thick, and you can see through it, and you can see fishes like huge aquarium. So this is why I came there to film its beauty. But rain came, and ice became white. So I called to producer. I said there is no point to film. There is no point to film. And then I was close to the window, and I saw man coming from Alhon, from the island, coming to the land. And I saw him falling. Он провалился через лед 5 раз, пока он доходил. Я побежал ему. I came to meet him. I gave him my jacket, and I said, "Where you go?" He said, "I just want to buy a cigarette." So I decided to film it. So, and it happens that 64 cars was on the bottom of Lake Baikal, and while 2 weeks I was there, 9 people died. Just so, and I was filming how they're taking cars, and suddenly another car, just in my frame, without like. That's why I believe this. I have this feeling that camera is a gun. Camera is like a huge gun, and you have to be really careful how to use it, and you really have to be responsible. Because I'm telling you, if I put camera here, I don't know, fire will happen, this tower will fall, I don't know, something will happen. And that's why I'm trying not to film. I always said to me, you only film when you can't stop yourself. You're already like, you have to do it, then you do it. Otherwise, I'm trying not to.
It's interesting that there is a Latvian joke about Herz Frank and Ivars Seleckis, that because that they have different approaches to documentary filmmaking. That Ivars Seleckis would be the one who puts the camera and waits for the moment when the cat goes across the rail trail. Yeah, but Herz Frank would take a whip, hit the cat to on his butt, and the cat would just run across them. So he would let's say he would initiate, like he would give some kind of a signal, like an ignition to this scene, while Ivars would wait for this to happen. And probably what Victor you were saying about this miracle that happens in a way because the camera is put there. Probably the Ivars would be the one who would
This
follow.
is a very great point. But people who think about film today and who write about film today, they don't know one important element. When people watch archive footage, they don't know one important element. I would say 70-80% of all archive footage is fiction.
I would agree.
Is fiction. When a friend of mine, my teacher Pavel Kogan, was making film about Rusevsky, he sent me to Moscow to watch Rusevsky, because Rusevsky, before he made these great Kalatozov's movies, he was a cameraman on the war. And Pavel sent me to watch his footage. I was sitting 3 weeks, searching everywhere. Then I met Pavel in the train station. He came from Leningrad to Moscow. And I said to him, Pavel, we shouldn't make film about Rusevsky. He was very bad cinematographer, cameraman. What? And I said, he was very bad cameraman. What are you talking about? And I said, let's go. And I made a screen for him. Rusevsky was pretending that he is filming in the war. In fact, it was in studio, someone sitting in an airplane, and they are moving an airplane like this, and they were putting wind, and Rusevsky was like telling him how to smile and how to. When I was assistant for, it doesn't mean Rusevsky is just great cameraman and who changed life of many people, including me, who wants to be a filmmaker and cameraman. But doesn't matter. I'm talking about something else. When I came to cinema as assistant cameraman, so we had 2 minutes every day only 2 minutes of footage. So they sent us to film, let's say for factory, but you have only 2 minutes of film. And you're waiting that people, let's say someone is with hammer doing something. So what do? You wait, the cat will pass the train, or you say, hey, wait a second, I have a camera, I will tell you. What cameraman, I was assistant, but I learned this hell of documentary, what they call Russian archive footage. Crap, no archive footage, fiction. What cameraman was saying, okay, now, Victor, did you make focus? Yes, ready. Now ready, please do it. So, okay, oh, sorry. Fuck, Victor, you didn't make focus. Can you do it again? Wait a second. So, and this is because we was not, what happened next? This is important, and film critic doesn't know this. Remember what I will say to you. Game-changing situation. I will finish in a minute. Okay. Few years ago, appears cameras, which changing everything. Why I'm saying that movie will start now? Because if I'm filming condor and I want condor to fly on the net, I can film a cat crossing this. There are 2 options you mentioned. But now it's different. Now camera has pre-rec system, which recording 10 or in another camera 13 seconds in a loop. So camera is rolling every time. You don't need to wait. You don't need to do anything. Camera is just recording this 10 seconds every time. So if you're waiting for a moment, which Tarkovsky always was saying, the baby sleeping and they wake up, and you want this moment not to lose this moment, what do? You stay all day and film. Now you don't need to. You have this magic button. You press this button, and it's recording 20 or 30 seconds, depends of camera. And then when he wakes up, you just press, and 30 seconds before he wakes up, you have it in the film. So it's a magic technical tool appears 10 years ago. No one use it, really. No, you use it, of course, because it's magic, and it's really like in the level of, I don't know, appear or have sound appear.
You know,
действительно, особенно документальное кино,
especially
очень
documentary
зависимо от
cinema is very
технологии.
dependent on technology.
Но
But
если ты говоришь о
if
Русевском
you
как о фронтовом
talk
операторе,
about Urusevsky
у меня
as
был
a
опыт
war cameraman,
изучения
so
архивов
I was
Второй
studying
мировой
the
войны,
archives of Second World
немецкой Deutsche
War,
Weckenschau
the
и
German
нашей
ones and
советской.
Soviet
Я
ones.
делал
And I was
картину,
making a film
как бы за
that is
скобками
like
войны.
outside the brackets
Срезки
from war,
очередной
so
войны.
like pieces of another war.
Так как
And
вся
so,
Deutsche Weckenschau
since all
является
the German newsreels are owned by Russia and they are in the Russian film archive. I looked almost all of this, the material that was made, so not only the newsreels, but also the material that was not even printed. And I also watched all the newsreels, war newsreels from Soviets. An interesting thing that Germans were shooting their life, so outside the war, outside the ideology, and Soviet cameramen were shooting only the things that were needed to be shot, so they did a lot of staging, also more staging, less unstaged material, but still in the framework of the ideology, in the framework of result that is expected. So the material that Tarkovsky used in his film, in his film Zerkalo, they are unique because there are nobody else except this Armenian cameraman didn't shoot war like this, because this war was outside ideology, outside expectations, and it's the question, it's not the question of technology, because also Germans had the film reel of 30 meters and the Soviets too, and all the development was outside the front line, and so the value of these 30 meters that made 1 minute is the same, the financial value. So I don't want to say that one is better or another is worse, but we can see that there are things apart of the technology, so it's a relationship between artist and society, something like that. When we were doing a film with Alexei German,
when I worked with Alexei German, senior, on his book of his memories, and we talked about cinema, he told me about a story about preparation for his first feature, Road Checks, and he needed to find how the partisans actually looked like, because he wanted to show the real partisans in the forest, not only in battle, and he couldn't find archive, Soviet archive about it. He could see it only on German film, when there were arrested partisans, and from this footage he knew how they looked like, what they wear, and everything. So that didn't exist on, or maybe it was in strict secret, I don't know, but I think it didn't exist at all in Soviet film. So this is very, and when he showed his film, the screenplay was approved by Goskino, but the film, no. He was put on Polka, and many people ask how, why the screenplay was okay, but the film is not, because he could show these things, small things, like the partisans were Romanian vest taken from killed Romanian soldier, and we couldn't show the Soviet partisan in Romanian. It was purely technical, but it wasn't possible to show this. It was the position of filmmaker, the traitor, you know. And it's very paradoxal that Victor made his point about literature and film. Film is also some pieces of truth that you cannot put on the page of literature, but you sing it, and it's somehow, sometimes more full, let's say.
Но все-таки игровое кино в большей степени обслуживает, мне кажется, мифы или некие понятийные принципы. Документальное кино за реальность и в некотором смысле вступает в конфликт с вот этими понятиями, доминирующими в обществе.
of
Витя
society,
вспомнил про
values of
«Титаник»,
society.
но есть же фильм
Vita remembered
«Титаник»,
about
где
Titanic, but there is
показаны
this
богатые
film
люди,
Titanic where the
которые,
rich people are
расталкивая
shown that
локтями,
they are
садятся
aggressive
на
and are
спасательные лодки.
when they are getting on the
Реальность и
boats.
документы, и
But the
факты
reality
говорят о том,
documents and
что как
facts
раз
tell that
пассажиры
the
первого
passengers
класса
of the first class,
спаслись
80% of the ones who were
83%
saved were
женщины
women
и
and
дети.
children.
И
And so
погибли
most of the
мужчины.
men died. But from the passengers of the third class, so like the more simple people, mostly men were saved, and women and children died in a bigger amount. But if Cameron would film this reality, he would, like the society that looks at the film would reject him. And so this conflict between reality and serving the needs and doctrines imposed by society at the moment, this is a serious conflict in cinema.
No,
Вот видя
Okay,
последнюю
last
фразу, и вы идете
words
делать
of Vita,
тесты,
and then you go to make
что вы
tests
здоровы.
Последняя
that you
фраза.
are
Sorry.
healthy.
We can say that all of you, and I agree with it, partly that cinema. Once in last year festival, Anton was, when he was given prize, he said, "Film truth," and the problem here is, in my opinion, a tiny bit bigger. Truth, only part of life, man. Only part. The lie is also part of the life. Lie. So the truth and lie, it's not life still. So in a way, lie is also part of the truth in a way, right? So it means just to feel. The fact is, yes, camera is registering reality, yes, but still, magic of cinema is beyond this, beyond truth. It's something you cannot. If it's just truth, then what is the point to film it?
We should finish now, but I just.
Но мы
So
подошли к
we are
тому, о чем
reaching
хочется поговорить.
finally the interesting
I
topics.
just wanted, because before you said about this magic of the film, and I wanted to add one sentence of magic of the filmmaker. Ivar Seleckis, he had a brother, Andris Seleckis. He was a cameraman. He worked with Hans Frank, actually, and he was shooting this Last Judgment, about this and so. And he, unfortunately, died a few years ago. And when then people were writing tributes and remembering words about him in Facebook, and his assistant was Jānis Eglītis, our also very good cameraman, and he said that this Andris Seleckis had the ability to. They were standing in the meadow, and there is this horse there, and they are standing and waiting, and nothing is happening. And then this Andris comes to this assistant and said, "Now, 1, 2, 3, in 10 seconds he will move." And he's filming and pressing the button, and this horse is doing this. So I think it's also this magic of filmmaker also plays a very big role in this sense. So how are we going to conclude? We have to finish. But it's so interesting to talk with you.
The magic is a perfect conclusion, I think, because we're trying to understand some logic in it. But when we talk not about reality and technical, but about art, any form of art, it's impossible to happen without this little or not little magic. And the magic is we're not able to analyze it. We can sometimes predict it, but not analyze.
Yeah, and the institutional rationality always leads to some bad consequences, so it's better to leave always the space for miracle or magic in filmmaking, definitely.
Thank you very much. It was very good ending.
You.